I hope you leave that in. Hello, interwebs, and welcome to the Frak This podcast. I am your traveled host, Jesse Gender, and I'm joined as always by...
Frazzled? That was that one?
Traveled. Yes. Well-traveled might be the better term.
Traveled. That's all you get. It's Vera, by the way.
Yes. How are you, Vera?
I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
Is what I am. I finally saw Sinners.
Oh, yes. I saw your review. It was very good.
Oh, that movie's great. Like
I did see the word. Oh, sorry. Yeah.
I want to see it again because because there's been so much going on. Like, I'm out of processing power, between having to do in-depth Doctor Who review. Well, not having to do, I choose to do, but between doing, in-depth Doctor Who reviews, still doing Saturday videos, Andor finally wrapped up, but Last of Us isn't finished quite yet. And all this other stuff, like my ability to process all the meaning behind what was going on in Sinners, it's like I hit a wall and I'm like, I need to watch this thing again.
Yeah, that movie especially has a lot of nuance. In fact, I'll give a spoiler warning when I say this for people if you want to skip ahead 60 seconds. But I'll say this to Vera. I won't. I'll give you this, listeners. I'll give you the warning when I'm about to say the spoiler. But I did see the worst fucking take on the movie.
Oh dear.
That was and this is where the spoiler comes in. So skip ahead 60 seconds, listeners, if you don't want spoilers for Sinners. But it literally said the vampires just represent white people, and the movie is trying to say they just want to appropriate and are bad people. It was some weird ass take that didn't understand the influence of Irishness on it, and how vampires were the movie actually has a lot of sympathy for the vampires, and using how Irish people were colonized and had their culture sort of flattened into how this main character was actually he did have an earnest desire to have to share culture, but it was appropriative, not necessarily. It was more flattening and erasing of the cultural distinctions and just sort of pressing it all in. The movie has a lot of sympathy for, I think, the vampires' perspective, even though it recognizes them as dangerous and wrong, as a sort of more liberal mindset of let's just all get into the melting pot, and in this writer just said Irish people are white people. And I'm like, no, that erases so much history that the movie is very much grappling with.
No, but the movie's real good. And I described it to a friend of mine. I'm not going to compare the movie overall to this, but I would say it has Jordan Peele level of layers to parse in terms of how much, you don't have to dig through all the layers. On the surface level, It's already a good movie. But if you want to go digging, there's a lot.
Yeah. No, it's again, just quick little thing here. It's about how people get cut off from their cultural history and how people respond to that and how people try to hold on to that and the different ways people do that in harmful ways or trying to bring in other groups and cultures in a way that celebrates everyone's diversity. It's a really good movie and dealing with all of that.
It's a very good movie. And there is a scene midway through that was one of the most incredible scenes that I have seen in a theater in decades. And if you've seen the movie, I don't even have to say more than that.
Oh yeah. No, it's fantastic. Well, I went home this weekend and met my 2-year-old nephew for the first time. He's just a fat little baby that can only look at lights.
Absentee aunt. 2 years, you couldn't even bother
two
to
months.
show up.
Did I say 2 years? I said
you
2
did.
I meant 2 months. I meant 2 months. 2 months. 2
okay,
months.
Fine. You're not such a horrible bitch.
No, 2 months. And besides, what is he gonna remember? I took a picture with him so that when he's older, I'll be like, look, I was there when you were a kid. But all I could do is look at lights right now. He's cute and adorable, but he just looks at lights and doesn't have any awareness of what's going on.
Who's a little idiot? Yeah, who doesn't know how horrible the world is? You!
Yeah, he sleeps, he poops, and he looks at lights, which, to be fair, is about the equivalent of what I do with my life. He just has a better excuse.
You just get paid better.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So yeah, that was fun. It was a good time. I got to hang out with family, and we had a party for my sister's graduation as well. So
Lovely.
And you know when I had a wonderful argument too with my family about there was at the graduation ceremony for my sister, they had a news reel of like all the things that happened while you were at college, like going back to like severance and like Trump getting elected or whatever. But the moment that was like an interesting, like, I can see the generational difference here, which was when the United Healthcare CEO getting shot came up, and everyone in the crowd, like, and the kids cheered.
Yes.
Yeah, there was a total amount of cheering. We went home. All of my parents were like, like clutching their pearls and being like, my aunt, my uncle, and my dad and my stepmom were all clutching their pearls. Like, how could they? They couldn't do it. And I'm like,
fuck your pearls. The kids are all right.
Yeah, it's like I have no tears to shed for that douche. So.
Yeah, no, good on them. God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look,
no, made me feel good, but I was like, my parents were.
I'm gonna say what I always say. I do not wish violence on anyone, and I'm not saying that he should have been murdered, but I am glad he's dead.
Yeah, that's pretty much my take on it as well. So it's like I have no tears to shed. So, yep. Anyway, speaking of tears to shed, nope, not a good one. We're talking about Kobol's Last Gleaming Part 2, the Season 1 finale of Battlestar Galactica. So, yeah, that was not a good transition at all. That being said, I should get these ready beforehand. I did look at them, but I do have some comments to read. Give me 2 seconds to pull it up. This is a very professional organization I got going here. Why the fuck, when I type in Break Room of Geeks, it does not bring up the most latest videos. It brings up like one from like 2 years ago. I don't know what the fuck.
Yeah, I don't know. You have to actually go to the page and.
Well, it's also weird too because I'm working on a project and I need to reference some old like videos, Star Trek videos that I did, and I even type in the title of my video that I want to find, and it doesn't come up for like the second page. I'm like, it's literally the title of my video. I'm seeing all my other fucking videos on Star Trek or whatever.
Just do a search from the studio. Do it from the back end. It's a lot. It works a lot better.
I know. But I'm like, when I'm trying to be fast, I will just search in YouTube. I don't want to go into that, but yeah, it's whatever. Anyways, these are comments from the Frak This Podcast episode 13, Colonial Day. So that is the Tom Zarek episode that we got a little while ago where Baltar becomes vice president in that one. So this one's from Fractometry. In Norway, up until a few years ago, a political party could list candidates without their consent. And if they're elected, they have a duty to be in office, especially for the national parliament where it's not possible to resign. But they could also never show up for work and they'll still get paid. Now you can declare that you want to have your name removed. So if it works similarly on BSG, maybe there was an entire process that Gaius Baltar missed because he doesn't pay attention to the day-to-day. Someone nominated Gaius, he didn't object, no one else is more popular, and who would be? It's a small world.
It is interesting to hear that there is actually a political system where that is possible.
Yeah, where you could just be like, I didn't know I was elected. Well, you have to show up.
But here, kindly start showing up for government.
Yes.
What?
You get paid, I guess. So at least that's good.
Yep.
All right. Yum Yum Podcast says, it was Boxy at the grassy knoll who killed Valance. Fuzzy, you actually responded to this one. So, let's see. I was wondering if Vera was going to mention that all of Galactica's command staff were on Cloud 9 at the same time. I was waiting for this episode to see Vera's reaction to Baltar becoming vice president. And you responded saying, I mean, the thing here is that there really isn't anywhere in the fleet that's really notably safer than anywhere else, at least with things as they currently stand. So...
Yeah, because for listeners who didn't listen to our Babylon 5 podcast, one of my recurrent things was the commanders going needlessly into danger. In particular, the commanders of this space station leading attack runs in like their equivalent of fighter jets. It's like, what the hell are you doing? So it's not unreasonable to think that I would complain about the entire government body being on just one ship, except that at least as things currently stand, none of them are really safer from any others. If the Cylons show up, they're all equally in danger.
They're all fucked.
Yeah.
Yep. And then Megan says, the grass we use on our lawns in North America is technically considered an invasive species. Despite its branding Kentucky bluegrass, it's native to Europe and parts of Asia. So a little bit of grass.
It does depend on the specific grass that you have. There are some native grasses in the U.S., but yes, in many places it is effectively an invasive species. An invasive species that we waste fresh water to keep alive. God damn it. I hate it here.
Well, this will also be a good one. This is also a good one for leading into the episode we're about to talk about, and I want to read it because the first part of this is an interesting theory. I don't necessarily know if I agree, but it's an interesting theory, especially since we'll never get an answer on it within the show. So this is in reference to Valance getting killed. Pearl May.
Oh, yeah.
Pearl May says, I thought it was clear that Apollo and Starbuck killed Valance. I remember Apollo beating him hard, and if I remember right, the next time we see Valance, he's dead with Apollo and Starbuck in the room. And they're all, how did this happen? Which is ambiguous, since somebody who's shocked by how far they've gone wrong could easily say those words, fully knowing what had happened. The camera lingered on A and S2 at the party, so Apollo and Starbuck too, at the party when Rosalind wondered who killed Valance. As for Ellen, the only implication I saw is that she may have given Zarek the location he asked for, resulting in an assassination, which would mean that he misled Rosalind. P.S. I don't know any spoilers, just I noticed that Tumor was sick last episode and pregnancy was the first thing I thought of. It fits with the Cylons' earlier discourse that they wanted Hilo to fall in love with Tumor. We'll talk about that second part later on, but that first one I thought, that's an interesting theory, and we don't get a confirmation at any point in the show, but it's an interesting way to read that scene.
It is an interesting theory. I would say definitely not what was intended, given how we're supposed to feel about these characters, but not a bad theory.
It would fit the show, like the talk about torture and things like that. The show tries to grapple with, but it's sadly, I don't think that's the intention.
I've noticed you haven't brought up you haven't brought up any of the comments that are like, Jesse needs more time for the spoiler minute.
I mean, I feel like that would be a little bit self-serving. I wouldn't disagree with that, but I'll save it for when there's actual places that I'm going to need it, because I'm not even going to really need it today. So, all right. Well, let us get into our recap of this episode. We start off with the Raptor crash site on Kobol. Basically, everyone important survived except for a few red shirts, one of who is still sort of like surviving barely. Baltar has to walk through fire at one point to get out of the ship before it explodes, and Head 6 appears with angelic music and asks him to take her hand, and that sort of allows him to escape.
Yep.
We then jump over to Caprica, where Hilo and Tumor are waiting outside of a museum which houses the arrow of Apollo for some reason. Never explained why they're there, really, other than it's convenient for what happens later on.
Yeah, I don't know.
This I just want to draw attention because it does bug me. Like, they're clearly there because the story needs them to be there, because Starbuck will show up in just a minute, but the episode itself never points out why they're there.
Well, this is the area where I forget whose idea it was, where they have been headed for a while.
Yes.
So
it was Tumor's idea to head there.
Yes. So why they're still heading there?
Well, no, they escaped. So it was Tumor's idea to head to this flight base that they were going to steal a ship from. But then after Hilo saw that Tumor was a Cylon, he ran away from there. Yeah. But since then, they've had no real direction, and they just happened to be at this museum, unless there's something I missed.
Yeah, Delphi is the name of the museum. They specifically said that that's where they were going.
Oh, but again, why?
I don't know.
That's my point.
Well, the thing is, Tumor brings up, I didn't write down the line, but Tumor brings up something about, getting to Earth, which, first of all, that's fucking new, that the Cylons even know that Earth is a thing, but it's just the idea that they'd want it. But that would lead me to think that, regardless of whether or not she's looped Hilo in on this, probably not, because he doesn't trust her right now, she might theoretically be there for the same thing Starbuck is.
It's possible, but again, we don't know why.
If there's an interest in Earth, which again is brought up for the first time.
Yeah.
And
The other,
I can't tell you why. I don't know why any of this.
Yeah. The other thing too that I at least want to know is like he keeps saying I want to get back to the Galactica, and I'm just like technically you only know that the Galactica's still around because Toomer told you. So why would you believe that the Galactica's still around and you're just not the only dude left? You know what I mean?
Because he would have to, because the alternative is he's the last human being even alive, and that's just the road to despair.
Yeah, fair enough.
So
Fair enough.
sometimes you believe a thing simply because the alternative is, well, I might as well lay down and die then.
Yes. Um, but yeah, we cut back to the Galactica Bridge, essentially. We have Ty and Adama talking about Starbuck flying back to Caprica on her own auspices. Adama is clear that she was coerced into doing it, but Ty says, oh, no one coerces Starbuck. But then the president calls and Adama says, bear witness, which I liked.
Yeah. So Ty like puts on these headphones to listen in.
Yeah, and Adama literally asked point blank the question, "Do you have any?" Well, Adama asked on a more politically astute version of the question was, "Do you have any knowledge of this incident?" Where the president just says it directly. It's like, "You're asking me, did I ask her to go to Caprica?" Yes. Adama says this is a military decision, and she sort of argues, "No, it was my responsibility as president to the people to do this." And Adama points out again the danger to the people of Kobol, and so Adama asks for her resignation. And then when she says no, he says, I'm terminating your presidency as of this moment. And she says, if you want to stage a coup, you're going to come over, and the press is recording every minute of this, which Adama immediately hangs up upon hearing.
Yeah, because she's on speakerphone and the press is there. The press who stays oddly quiet. I would think the first thing that would happen as soon as the phone call ends is they all have questions.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's something real chilling about him saying, "I'm terminating your presidency as of right now," because the declarativeness with which he says that, because he's not even saying like "you leave me no choice" or anything else. It's very clear in this moment that he views now and has always viewed her position as president as something that it was within his power to revoke at any moment the instant he felt it was necessary.
Yeah. Which is not how that's supposed to work.
No,
yep,
it's not. Now, to be clear, it's fine that that's how he thinks it should work. It's very telling of his character. It drives the conflict. But yeah, that's fucked.
Yep. Very, very much so. We then cut to Adama, Lee, Ty, and Gata basically forming a plan to prepare a strike team, with Adama even saying as long as she's president, she's dangerous. And then they also start talking about the Cylon base ship that they still have to deal with.
Okay, so let's talk about Lee real quick, because I had a note here and also in a later scene that is explained because of something that happens later, but that only explains the narrative way that this goes down. I still think it's bad characterization. My note being, Lee is oddly on board and not objecting to overthrowing, just deciding, democracy is in the way. Let's pack that in right now.
I made note of it as well. Yep.
Yeah, and it is being done so they can make a bigger deal out of it later. But it still, in the moment, felt really out of character for him. Like, I think the mistake was that they've got him in the room, like, helping with the planning. He's like, I know what their security measures are like on Colonial One. I'm like, dude, the fuck?
They either needed to have him not be present in that scene, maybe part of the strike force, but not be present in that scene, or have him at least even offhandedly voice like some dissent, like being like, "Are we sure we want to do this?" Like give like at least signal that he's at least voicing some level of dissent.
I mean, like for the sake of his character, yes. I suspect the reason they didn't do that second one is because they felt it would
tip
be
the
too
hand.
telegraphing.
Yeah.
And or people might wonder if he's acting like he's going to be a problem, would they even take him on board? So I think the best option would have been for him not to have been around for any of the planning and to have just been on the team that was going over there.
Yes, I agree. I still even think you could have done it subtly with him just being like, "Hey, are we sure we want to do this?" And then Adama just shutting it down is like, "No, she's gone too far," and like just at least like voicing is like a little moment, like not like actively being like, "You're wrong, Dad," and screw you.
Oh yeah, no, like a full stand up wouldn't have flown. But yeah, like it did strike me as like being really odd that he just says nothing.
Yeah, it's weird. We then cut to the president really briefly, where she said that she thinks he's bluffing, but we're gonna be prepared. So quick little scene there. We then cut to
well, actually, what's funny about the bluffing thing is they both say that. Like Adama says that about her, and she says that about him.
Yes. We then cut to the scene the scene that where Lee helps in the planning is actually they cut back and forth between two scenes. So there was that bit with Lee planning, but then they mentioned the Cylon transponder that they still have to attack the base star, but they need a pilot, which then leads us into a scene with Adama and Boomer, where he goes to see her and says, "I need a pilot. I have a very special mission for you," and basically tells her the plan that they were going to do a Starbuck, except for now they have to use a Raptor instead of the Cylon ship, but it should still work because they have the transponder. And he even says, for all they know, you're a silent agent returning with a captured Raptor. So yeah, you dock. They think you want to dock. You fire the nuke into the loading bay and jump back home immediately.
Yep.
Which he accepts the mission. Quick little scene of Starbuck preparing, the strike team preparing. Then we cut to Starbuck peering over Caprica. At first, she thinks she missed it, but then she turns and sees that the Caprica, the planet, is there, and she's like, "Oh, I'm good. I'm real good." And she tests the transponder and is able to get by all of these Cylons and a shit ton of base stars that are orbiting Caprica. So.
Yep. Which also begs the question, like, with a Cylon ship just orbiting right there, was Hilo ever gonna have a chance at actually getting off?
Yeah,
this
right.
planet?
I think Hilo is fucked no matter what.
Yeah.
But space is big. You don't know. They could have gone on the other side of the planet. The planet rotates. They could fly off in the other direction. You don't know how many base stars there are.
This is true, but if he doesn't know that they're out there, he's not going to know how to time his launch to be sure he misses them either.
Yeah,
that's just the big ass dice roll.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, speaking of Hilo, we cut to him. And they basically, he and Toomer kind of have an argument because Toomer sort of argues like she's scared, and he says, "You have software, I have emotions." But Toomer sort of saying what we had between us was important. She says it was the next step. It's to bring us closer to God. And Hilo said, "Don't mock our gods. I don't care for you. I don't love you. I loved what I thought was you." And then Toomer reveals that she is preggers.
Let's see if this is
So Vera's just showed me her notebook where she wrote in big letters, "Fuck off." So this was the thing that I have been like alluding to, because there's been little hints of it over the past few episodes, like she's been sick.
Yeah. In hindsight, the fact that she threw up should have been, because like in television terms, if a woman throws up, she's pregnant, and if somebody coughs, they have a fatal illness. Like this is just like, so I feel a little silly for not catching that. Although I could also chalk it up to the same reason that for me, oftentimes romantic subplots feel like they come out of nowhere, which is I refuse to see it until there is no way for me to deny it. So I think it might have been the same thing.
Yeah, I kept trying to draw you to, because there have been a ton of clues, like even going back to like, this is when the Cylon said, "Oh, you get him to fall in love with you, stay in a cabin, did you have sex?" Like they were asking all that stuff. So it was clearly like this was the ultimate kind of plan that they wanted for her. She just had made the problem of developing feelings herself.
I hate this. I hate this. And like, I guess here's my big frustration with this show right now. By and large, especially with the two main shows that you and I have reviewed together, those being Farscape and Babylon 5.
And The Prisoner. Don't forget The Prisoner.
Yes, but that's not going to apply for what I'm about to say.
I know, but I just don't want to forget The Prisoner. It deserves to be remembered, Vera.
Yes, it does. But those shows were really good at showing ways of thinking that are not the standard human ways of thinking, ways of processing information or societal structure or these other things that just made the worlds feel bigger.
Mm-hmm.
And it's always more interesting for me when a non-human species feels non-human,
Mm-hmm.
however that translates, whether it's just because they're freaking cryptic as shit, like the Vorlons, or it's because of like the weird quirks of like Aaron Sun and the fact that as a Sebastian, she's actually cold-blooded,
Mm-hmm.
even though the fact she looks human, and how that actually viscerally impacts certain episodes at various ways. Like, I love the ways in which these things are not human and they are very different. And you come in with this and you give me a robot species, and I'm like, I am real interested in that. I am all on board for sentient machines. I am all on board to find out, how they think and process and respond differently. And fucking you're giving me these plots that seem to be all about bringing us closer to humanity or getting us to understand humans better, or we're breeding with them. And like, okay, I know that in a lot of ways the Cylons are taking cues from the replicants in Blade Runner. Here's my fundamental, like, mental block for why that isn't working for me. A key thing for the replicants is that we built them like that. Human beings built them like that. They did not choose to be that. We don't know what they would have been left to their own devices. And that trapping and that boxing of them in by humans is part of the narrative of that world in those movies. The Cylons, as far as the humans designing them, were the toasters. So the human ones, they designed themselves. And it just bores me how human they are. And I am just left going, what is it we're exploring for a non-human species to be trying to replicate or recreate or bond with or breed with or whatever humanity? Because I don't want, the more human and the more tied into humanity they become, and like the very idea of having the human looking Cylons for anything other than infiltration, every time they have been brought up with any notion other than that, has made me go like, I don't fucking know about this, man. And maybe this is just my aversion, because this came up in those shows as well. My aversion to the aggrandization of human beings, because human beings fucking suck, and I'm sick of them being held up as pinnacles in sci-fi stories.
Oh man, how do I? Listeners, if you've watched this show, then you know I have thoughts about everything Vera says. I just can't say them. All I will say is that what you have just expressed will become an explicitly discussed idea within the show, and that is all I can say.
Okay. I mean, like,
I'm not going to. What I'll say is this: like, I'm not gonna discount what you're saying, because it does make what we're like it. It is one of those like easy things to say. That's like, well, you'll get to it in the show, he. But it doesn't make the moment to moment watching as you're going through it less frustrating to watch for someone like you or people watching it the first time. That being said, I really
appreciate. Yeah. I really appreciate that you get that, because so many people are like, oh, but you have to wait to the end. No, but the process of getting there is frustrating me. Let me be frustrated.
So, yes, I think you have every right to be frustrated. And I certainly understand why you're frustrated, and I'm not going to say it's not valid. What I will say is let me at least allay your concern that it will not just be left at that. Like, there will be some conversation within the show about what specifically frustrates you. Whether or not you like it is another question, but it will become a textual, explicit conversation within the show. Exactly your issue.
Okay. And like, honestly, there's also the simple factor that I don't like baby subplots.
Yeah, that I also agree with you on. Yeah.
In most shows, and like, It's not because I hate kids. I mean, I do hate kids. I like my kid, but there is that. But that's not the reason. It's just that like I find them rarely interesting, and like just having a baby just logistically always eats up a ton of the plot, and I rarely find it interesting. So there's that as well. I have a little bit of a bias against
what I genuinely dislike about baby plots, and I'm gonna see if this show is gonna lean into it or not, because it could go either way. But I generally hate baby plots when it like places the show itself, like the actual like clearly what the show is sort of already assuming is that like there's some importance on like biology and like, oh, they're special because they're bleh. You know what I mean? Like they're this person, like they're the son of Anakin Skywalker, so of course they're important because of biology determines destiny bullshit, or like this special thing gives them specific powers or whatnot. But when it's used to be something like more cultural, like for example, like, you know, Spock in Star Trek being a character who is like, he's got two culture backgrounds. It's not necessarily his biology that is inherently like makes him special. It's that like this tension between like his biology, his cultural heritage, all of these things sort of influence each other. That I don't mind. And I don't necessarily mind it when within the show, the characters within the show place emphasis on biology. And it's clear, you know, skipping a little bit to the end, like the Cylons here are very clearly putting some level of like import on, oh, this being a human Cylon baby hybrid. That's fine for the characters within the show to place the narrative importance on that. It is another thing for the show itself to sort of like be like, yes, they are special because of their biology. Now, I don't actually remember which way Battlestar Galactica goes with that. If it's gonna like it, clearly the Cylons are doing that. Whether or not the show necessarily says that as like an important thing, I don't necessarily remember. So,
well, we'll see eventually.
All right. Where is it? Okay, here. So the strike team starts a soft seal on the Colonial One, and we also see Boomer and Racetrack heading off to Kobol. The president then says that she does not want bloodshed. 176 civilians have gone into the cargo hold, and says to the rest of her team that they do not have to come with her. But Billy says, no, we stand with our president. So.
Oh, he's a good boy.
Hey, look, I like Billy. What do you got against Billy? Billy's great, honest to God.
I got nothing against Billy.
He is the purest heart on this show.
Just like I got nothing against you,
but I'll still belittle you every now and then.
Well, Billy didn't consent, okay?
I'm not talking about Billy anymore.
I want to talk about Billy. I'd prefer to talk about Billy. But yeah, Billy's a good kid. We like Billy. Anyways, we have Adama calls the president. I don't know why. I didn't take notes on that. Did anything come of that call?
No.
I don't. It says he calls.
Yeah, he's like, get the president on the phone. We don't even see the conversation.
Yeah, that's weird. Starbuck lands on Caprica, goes into the museum, and takes her anti-radiation meds, making me wonder, why didn't she do that before she left the ship?
Yeah, that was my thought, especially because like, okay, now you're out in the open and you had to put your gun down but yeah, I wondered that exact same thing. Like, do it in the ship. Like, I understand it's cramped and sinewy and everything else, but come on.
We then have Boomer arriving over Kobol, and we see that the transponder works, so they are able to get closer to the base star. We then cut down to the Kobol crash site, where Crashdown is clearly not handling the stress of the situation super, super well.
Ironically, give it his name.
Yeah, right. he sort of checks in on the wounded officer, and he's just sort of like, they're sort of saying, hey, we need to get help for him. We need these things for him. And he's like, the kid's gonna pull through. He sort of chastises one of the crew members for not getting a piece of like equipment to call the Galactica working. And then the chief sort of pulls him aside and says, hey, like, what's the tactical deployment? And Creston's like, we'll get to high ground and the Galactica will be able to see us. And Chief's like, no, that's a bad idea, because that means these Cylons can also see us. Might I suggest we find a place to take cover from the air? And Crashdown sort of abdicates responsibility to the chief and walks off.
Yep. I was distracted in this scene because of how bad the blood on their faces was.
Yeah.
It was real bad. It was very clear, like just this one little line and like a little tiny drop, and it's like in multiple places on their face. Like there's no application that actually makes it look like there's a cut. It's just a line of blood, and like with this frozen drop on it, and it was on both of their faces too. I'm like, oh god, that does not look good. Stop showing me that.
This scene did make me. I had a completely different thought than that. Made me wonder. I would love to see Chief Miles O'Brien from Star Trek: Deep Space Nine and Chief Tyrrell from Battlestar Galactica get the chance to meet. I think they'd enjoy each other.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. But yeah, Clarence is clearly crashing out. Ironically enough. But then we cut to Boomer and Racetrack trying to get on. Well, first they realize that the nuke bomb is jammed. Release is jammed conveniently. Yeah. So they have to dock inside the ship. At least that's Boomer's idea, and they'll drop the nuke inside the ship itself. So.
Yep. So yeah, it won't fire. This is their only option. Which Racetrack not a fan of, but
yeah.
Boomer's very determined.
Mm-hmm. Well, back down on Kobol, we have Baltar talking to Head 6, saying, "You saved me and saved my life." And she says, "Would you care to return the favor? Do you wonder why you were chosen? Now's the time to find out why." And she leads Baltar off to a Stonehenge-like looking structure in the distance.
Yep. And it is really unclear to me if he actually gets up and walks away, and if he does, why nobody notices.
Yeah, I think he does physically walk away because there's a shot at the end of this that is important that I'll point out. So.
But like it does make me go, nobody, nobody,
yeah,
nobody's going. Hey,
what's Baltar just wandering out in the field?
Yeah.
Well, we then have the president and her Secret Service preparing for the boarding process. The priest is saying a prayer. Billy's kind of talking to Dee, and it's kind of interesting that they have the official things that they're saying to each other, like, "Oh, the president will not yield," but then Billy and Dee, because they have a rapport, start trying to like, tell me he's not going to do it. Don't make him do it. Like they kind of have their own little conversation on the side.
I also noticed a very quick cutaway to Gaeta, who is not okay with this. Like he's doing his job, he's following his orders. He is not okay with this.
Didn't want to draw attention to that, but good catch is all I will say.
No, I caught it. I actually backed it up and checked it again. There's like this moment where like after Adama like issues one of the orders, Gaeta just does this little head shake. He's like like he's not going to step out of line. He's not going to do anything, but he's not cool right now.
All I will say is Gaeta becomes a much bigger character in later seasons. So interesting. All right. We then cut to Starbuck finds the arrow of Apollo in the museum, and she shoots right at it to break the glass. And I was like, you might shoot the arrow. Like, aim a little lower, Starbuck. Damn. But yes, she gets the arrow, but then A6 shows up behind her, and they fight. They do a pretty rough fight.
A6 who knows who she is.
Yes.
Which, like, I'm not holding out hope for the logistics of this being covered, but I do still like want to know, is there like a shared hive mind between the different sixes? Is there potentially a shared hive mind between more than just them? Because like the one who got to know Starbuck the best was Leoben. But that one was killed. So like again, I want to know. I want to know how it works.
Yeah, again, your wishes will be granted at some point. Okay. Just not now. Not now. But yes,
But that like the fight's fine, but that was the first thing I immediately noted. Like she knows who Starbuck is.
Yes, she does. Yeah, she taunts her a few times.
Which like obviously some of the Cylons know who she's like. That as a concept didn't shock me because again, Leoben knew who she was. But the fact that this specific one on Caprica knows, that made me go like, how though? How though?
Yeah. Well, 6 does get to beat up Starbuck and grabs the arrow and goes to kill her with the arrow, but Starbuck tackles her off the ledge and is killing her. So, and
well, you missed an important part of that.
Well, yeah, Hilo and Tumor show up as well.
Hilo and Tumor show up right before the tackle.
Yes. So.
Because Hilo's all like, Starbuck?
Yeah, yeah. He's like, what the fuck? All right, cool. This is like a narrative plot convenience of some kind.
It's like, boy, this, you couldn't script this better. Wow, that's crazy.
It's real weird. Well, sometimes just coincidences happen, you know? That's how it goes. We then go inside the base star with Boomer and Racetrack. Boomer goes outside of the ship and says, if I'm not back in 5 minutes, just go. And she drags out the bomb. One thing to note here, the base star inside is fairly organic and fleshy looking, kind of like the inside of the Cylon Raider, whatever the shippers call it, whatever they're called. But yeah.
Yeah, not quite that visceral. It honestly reminded me of the inside of Moya a bit from Farscape. But yeah, definitely it's not doing harsh angles, it's not doing militaristic or mechanical. It is more curved, it is more organic.
But then as she's setting up the bomb, Boomer hears voices saying her name and sees, of course, naked, different versions of herself.
Now, I remember having seen this part in specific. I don't know how, because I don't remember the rest of this episode.
I will tell you how, and I know why. The future episodes of Battlestar Galactica, the opening credits, will use the shot of multiple versions of her coming out of the shadows, and so you probably saw the opening credits of the show, which use that shot.
Gotcha. That would make sense.
Yes. So that is probably what you've seen. But yes, they come out. Racetrack doesn't seem to see where she's freaking out and doesn't seem to know where Boomer went. And is trying to look for her.
She freaks out because Boomer like gets the bomb loose and so it's on the ground, but then like walks around the back of the ship where
she can't see
where
her.
Racetrack can't see. And he's like, "What the hell are you doing?"
Yeah. But yes, the different, I'll call them Sharons because I don't necessarily know her number, but the Sharons start like saying, you're confused and scared. They take off her helmet. But Boomer says, I'm not a Cylon, but they say, you can't fight Destiny, Sharon, no matter what you do. We'll see you again. We love you and we always will. Don't worry about us. And then Boomer runs back into the ship without her helmet on, which Racetrack clocks, says, where's your helmet? And as they fly away, the Sharons look at the nuke as the base star blows up.
Yep. They look at the nuke very unbothered, which makes a certain amount of sense because we have established since the mini-series that like their consciousnesses or whatever can get uploaded and stuck into new bodies. So that's not shocking.
Yes, they are willing to lose infrastructure, at least it appears, to be able to get what they want, which is what we'll see at the end of the episode, presumably. So, we then see the team, the Galactica team, assaulting the president's ship. There is a face-off with Ty placing the president under arrest, but Apollo then says this is wrong and pulls a gun on Ty. So this
which
is
my note says took you long enough.
Yeah, right. Ty says, this is mutiny, you know that. And he said, Apollo says, I'm listening to my instincts. Tell my dad I'm listening to my instincts, sort of referencing what was said at the top of last episode when they were boxing. And says, we cannot sacrifice democracy because a president makes a bad decision. But the president says, put the gun down to Apollo. I will go in. I don't want there to be any bloodshed. So Ty takes Apollo's gun and arrests him, and the president goes with him. To which, if I was Apollo, I'd be like, what the fuck? You couldn't have done that, like, 10 seconds earlier, so I didn't have to...
Honestly, that was my thought. I'm like, okay, if you're willing to turn yourself in, why was all this... Why did we let it get this... Like, I guess she was hoping Adama would back off.
Well, yeah.
But, like, I guess... But, like, if she is just accepting, like, I don't want people to die, and also the press already knows what's happening... Why did her security detail have all their guns drawn anyways? Why didn't she just go immediately?
Yeah. I mean, I I mean, I was joking facetiously from Apollo's perspective. I can kind of argue exactly why she does what she does, which is, A, she thinks that she's calling Adama's bluff. When it turns out to not be a bluff, she is willing to be like, all right, I will make a stand on principle. Like, he will arrest me and I'll be taken in, for the principle of the matter to like make a show of it, and she at least wanted to show defiance at that moment. But then when Apollo pulls the gun, she sort of has this thinking of like, this could escalate very quickly and get a bunch of people killed, so I'll just I'll be willing to be arrested right now.
Yeah, no, I get it, but also I was kind of like, okay, I don't know. It's just one of those things that kind of feels like okay, so there was no point in that then.
Yeah. The question for me comes down to, like, if she was willing to be arrested, why, like, on a principled matter of, like, I'll get arrested as like an optics thing, why wouldn't she have just done that as soon as Ty came in instead of having a standoff at all? You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's where the question really comes in, so. Because, otherwise it would have ended up in, like, shooting it. Yeah, so it's a rough scene, I guess I'll say. Anyways, Ty calls Adama. And Dama says, put her in the ring and bring Apollo back here. Rumor and Racetrack also return, and the base star, tells everyone that the base star is blown up, so which everyone celebrates, and Dama sort of says at least there's some good news. We then cut to Starbuck and Hilo and Tumor. The Six is dead. Hilo helps her up, and Starbuck and Hilo seem to reunite and say, you're the last person I expect to see. But then Starbuck sees Tumor, tries to shoot her, but then Hilo stops her and tells her that she's pregnant, and Starbuck breaks down.
Yeah. He's taking her word on that.
Yeah. Well, what are you going to do? Pregnancy test?
I mean, like, my immediate question, granted, we don't really know, but my immediate question that he should be asking is like, how do you know that for certain? Mm-hmm. Like, there's a million questions, and I don't know, maybe they finally had one of those off-screen conversations I kept saying they should have been having and never did. Mm-hmm. Where they covered all this. But it does seem it is one of those things where I can go with it, but part of me is like, for a guy who understands that she is theoretically dangerous, you are taking a big leap of faith that she's not just bullshitting you about this.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah.
And understand, narratively, I don't think she is. I think this is very clearly where the story wants to go. But just in narrative, why do you believe her, dude? And this is a trap that a lot of things fall into, where the characters believe a thing simply because the writers know the thing is true and they just want to move it along. Mm-hmm. Where meanwhile in universe, it would make way more sense for them to just be going, in fact,
Hilo should be being like, this is you're manipulating me again to like get me to trust you, sort of thing. Yeah.
And like, I can make some sense. I'm not so pedantic that I am not willing to accept, like, okay, they could be arguing over this, but it wouldn't be interesting, so we'll just move on. Mm-hmm. I don't think that's the case in this instance necessarily, though. Mm-hmm. Like,
I think what doesn't make it work as well is it not necessarily that Hilo trusts her, but at least lets him put aside his desire to not defend her as much. Like, you know what I mean? Whereas that was the point. Like, it seems to resolve a conflict that she's pregnant, where it doesn't seem like it should resolve that conflict. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like, I feel like what I wanted to have happen was for him to say, like, she's pregnant, and for Starbuck to go, like, she's lying to you about that, and him saying, like, maybe she is, but I don't know, and I don't feel okay, not believing her. Just something to establish that there is lingering doubt, but this is just what he feels he has to do. Mm-hmm. Because otherwise it just reads as, oh, person who's been lying to me fundamentally about who you are, I now believe you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Well, we then cut to Baltar and Head 6. Baltar says, I know this place, and goes inside, or like within the archway of the structure that is there, and it turns into an opera house.
And like, this was why I asked earlier, did he even leave? Because we have clearly now gone into a shit in his head.
Have we?
Mode. That is my guess because
Well,
if
there's
that
a
shit's-
I'll just bring this up. The final shot of the episode is him in the opera house, like standing there in the opera house in the visiony thing. But then we cut to a shot of the structure, and he's not there. So the implication being either he didn't walk over and he's just hallucinating in the field, which you could presume, but the visual presumption is he's physically not there anymore.
Yeah, which I don't know what to do with.
Yeah, so I'm just calling that out because I would question whether or not this is in his head, at least from what you were shown in this episode.
Yeah, it's because it would be my natural inclination that that's what's going on, but like I don't know what to do with the implication that he did actually physically transport to something through time or space or whatever, just because like at that point you're introducing a leap that is further than the show has gone, and I'm like, you need to earn that from me. So right now I'm taking it as symbolic, simply because if I take it as literal, you're asking me to do a bigger leap that I'm prepared to do right now.
Okay, well, I guess you're not willing to have this conversation, but I'll ask the question, I guess. Okay. It's just like, well, if the show's implying that it's not just in his head, what would that lend credence or not to with the stuff with Head 6 who may or may not be in his head? That's sort of the question I would ask, but that's to you. But like, you don't necessarily want to have the leap in that conversation.
Like,
Sada.
Again, understand how burnt out my processing is from this month. This month has kicked my ass.
Look, you've had to analyze fascism and Andor and Doctor Who and da-da-da-da-da. I get it.
Yeah, all this shit. And like some of it, I fully acknowledge, like, there is more to this than I am able to process. I already said it happened with Sinners. I'm pretty sure it's happening here too. I'm just tapped out, man.
Well, it's funny for me, but yeah, I'll at least leave those questions up in the air for you. But anyways, they head into the opera house, and Head 6 brings them to the stage, and she says, you know, life is a harmony, that all going according to God's plan. You're a guardian and protector of the next generation of God's children. The first member of our family will be here soon, and we see a baby in a crib, and she says, "Isn't she beautiful, Gaius?" So. Presumably, and the show doesn't make this explicit, but presumably we're meant to connect this to the kid that Tumor has.
Yes,
which would be a human Cylon hybrid.
That is 100% the narrative implication. Now, if that isn't the case, then this is either a deliberate mislead or they're going to change their mind later.
Mm-hmm. I'm not going to say either way, but that is the implication that the show is clearly leaning towards. So
yeah.
Yep. All right, we then cut to Adama bringing Roslyn into her cell. They don't say anything other than Adama just sort of being functional, like open cell, closed cell. So they have a little staring contest, but nothing is said, which is interesting. We then cut to the bridge where Adama comes back. Apollo is on the bridge, arrested. Adama also looks at him, and they kind of have a moment, but they also say nothing to each other. And Obama goes over... Obama. Let me be clear. The Cylons...
Thanks, Adama.
Yeah, thanks, Adama. Anyways, Adama goes over to Racetrack and Boomer to congratulate them and does such a shady thing to Apollo where he says, "You did your mission despite any personal misgivings that you may have had," and just like clearly just throwing shade at Apollo, because like why would they have any misgivings necessarily about blowing up a base star, at least from Adama's perspective? So it's clearly just shaded at Apollo, which is like, oh, you petty bitch, Adama.
Yeah.
But anyways,
you told the guy to listen to his instincts. He did. And now you're mad at what his instincts told him to do. This is partially your fault, Dad.
Yeah. Dad, you never liked me when I listened to you.
From you, all right? I learned it from watching you.
Well, Sharon goes in to shake Adama's hand, but then she pulls a gun and shoots him twice in the stomach before she is eventually tackled as Adama bleeds out, with Apollo sort of screaming over his body and D holding his hand. And then we also get the last shot of a Baltar being gone from the surface of Kobol.
Now that is a hell of a hook for the end of the season. And by far the strongest thing, because like that genuinely caught me off guard.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, oh, fuck, okay.
Yeah.
Shit. And I have to assume, my gut instinct is that it had to do with them taking her helmet off, that there were signals or something in the air or whatever that recalibrated some of her.
Either that or the way I
programming.
always read it was like she now can no longer deny that she is a Cylon, and so she just makes the choice to like fully commit to it here.
Yeah, like regardless, clearly what happened on the ship altered her, because otherwise, like that experience she had on the Cylon ship was important to happen, because otherwise the obvious question would have been, why didn't you do this sooner? Because there's no way this was your first opportunity to shoot him, because she's clearly not trying to get away with it. She's doing it in front of fucking everybody.
Mm-hmm.
So clearly something changed coming out of that experience.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it was a case of direct orders, whether it was a case of her going fuck it, whether it's a case of whatever her cover personality, you know, the sincerity of Sharon or whatever has just dropped or retreated or what have you. Like something changed. That's why this is happening now when it didn't happen before.
Mm-hmm. So.
Which, like, also, I don't think they'll necessarily be able to do it the same way every time, but it does sort of at least show that the show is aware of one of my sort of in the back of my head questions, which is, if you've got all these sleeper agents, what the fuck are you waiting for?
Mm-hmm.
And if it does like truly take an experience like this, whether it was a matter of logistics, they actually did something to her when she was there, or it just shook her enough that this was the direction she went. But the idea that like it's not just a switch that can get flicked on a Cylon cruiser somewhere, like, oh, set the sleeper agents to kill.
Yeah.
That like it takes more than that to shake them out of their cover personalities is a good thing to establish, because otherwise the question has been for a while, like, why are these sleeper agents just fucking around doing nothing?
Yeah, it feels like I think the thing that it's going for is she was embedded within the Galactica crew way back when, like years and years and years ago, however long ago it was that she was done that. So they could have people in these places to do things like this, but they cannot so easily just like flick a switch to let it happen. So it's like, okay, we need to do this to them to get them to be there, but we can't just like send them a signal and be like, oh yay, now they're switched on or whatever. So
yeah, which again is a good thing to establish, because otherwise, like, especially as we find out who else is a Cylon, the immediate question would have been, well, you know, depending on who it is, you were in a position to do so much damage before and you haven't up to now, or like this is sort of, at least in one feasible way, addressing that as an issue, so that it is potentially not going to be so much of a hang up for me when we get to other Cylon reveals.
Mm-hmm. Well, we'll get there when we get there, but that is the end of the episode. I could do a spoiler. I'll do a spoiler minute. It'll be very brief because it'll just sort of acknowledge directly the things that I was alluding to earlier. So, yeah, listeners, if you don't want any spoilers, and jump ahead 60 seconds, because I'm going to do spoilers as Vera's going to jump away in real time and give me 60 seconds on the clock.
And go.
Yeah, so I mean, the only major thing really is just to mention that what Vera was sort of alluding to, or what I was alluding to when Vera clocked it, which is like, we will get some textual conversation, mainly from Dean Stockwell's character, about the Cylons being made to resemble humans and think like humans and exist like humans. So like the show does have some textual conversation about, and in fact it becomes a big point in later episodes of like, oh yeah, the Cylons do look and act human because they were made to look and act human by the original 5 Cylons, or at least to resemble what I guess human might be the wrong word because the original 5 Cylons made them in their image, but because they were made in the image of people who already looked like humans and existed like humans, which again is a cycle that might have been repeating for a very long time, as the show implies. So anyways, that does become a textual conversation, and again, I want to acknowledge that like it doesn't fix Vera's frustration, but at least it does explain and does become a very big point of contention within the show about why the Cylons are so human-like in their thinking. So, all right. Well, that is everything that I had. Yeah, what do you think of the episode? The season 1 finale?
Well, it's better than the last one.
Yeah, that is true. It's better than last week's episode for damn sure.
Last week's was a fucking mess, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty good. Like, I have my frustrations and annoyances with, oh, pregnancy, ooh, baby. And I think part of the other thing is like it's bordering on a chosen one thing as well, because it's like, oh, this special child that has been conceived. I'm like, oh, you're fucking coming close.
Yeah, I don't mind chosen one narratives when it's like within the narrative the characters have picked a chosen one. It's when the show or like the narrative itself is like they're special for reasons. You know what I mean?
I appreciate the distinction. I still don't like it. But like that having been said, that's something that I just basically have to suck it up. This baby's a thing. It's going to be a major plot thing, so I just need to deal. But on introduction of the notion, I was always going to be like, ah, fuck.
Yeah, I always knew you were going to be. So
yeah. So I'll get over it. I mean, unless the plot line sucks, in which case I won't. But like, I'll probably get over it. That is a hell of a closer with Adama getting shot.
Yeah, it was definitely a big. I remember at the time it was a big deal. Yeah, because
Yeah.
it was also like, ooh, it's a very similar thing to like the Next Generation Borg thing with Picard. It's like, ooh, is Edward James Olmos going to leave the show? Did he only sign on for a single season? You know what I mean? That sort of thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So yeah, no, that's solid. Maybe early next season we can finally get Hilo off of fucking Caprica.
Don't hold out hope.
Fuck's sake.
Now Starbucks there though. I joke, but I will at least say the plot picks up next season.
The plot should be get me the fuck off this planet.
Yeah, I don't think that sadly you're gonna have to wait on. It will get better though.
That's not a high bar. That's not the reassurance you think it is.
Fair
Because
enough.
it doesn't take much
Yeah.
for it to accomplish that.
It has shit that it wants to do next season beyond one fucking thing that it spreads out for 20 or however many episodes, 13 episodes. So
Yeah. Fine. Honestly, the things coming to a head between Adama and Rosalind was pretty well handled. Happened sooner than I thought. Actually, and I think kind of just seeing Adama hit a breaking point and going, okay, the charade of democracy is over. Pack it in.
so casually too. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was the thing that got me. It's just a casual, like, all right, I'm terminating your presidency. It's not like a big deal. Yeah.
It was chilling, honestly. So yeah, that was good stuff. They mischaracterized Apollo so that they could give him a bigger moment of making a thing out of it. Like, this moment might land harder if I wasn't already thinking, why the fuck aren't you saying anything?
Yeah, of all the characters, Apollo's been the one that's been weirdly just the most strangely characterized, especially in the last like 2 or 3 episodes.
Yeah. He's been off lately.
Yeah.
I
don't dislike the use of him as like idealistic, believes in the system, kind of younger dude. But yeah, that characterization's not been handled super properly.
Something tells me he's the character I'm going to be the most annoyed with as the show goes on. Because the thing is, like, you say, he's, the more idealistic I believe in the system. Like, yeah, he is when the story wants him to be. He seems to be the most malleable one whose characterization changes depending on the plot of the episode.
Yeah, well...
No, and I don't mean like 101. I don't mean like 180-degree changes, but like this feels off compared to like 2 episodes ago. Seems to happen with him more than anybody else.
Well, it just seems to be like he keeps refining that opinion. I think is the problem, is my kind of take on it, is like this episode ends with him being like, no, wait, we shouldn't necessarily do a coup of the president. I'm like, that feels like a realization you would have like come to already based on your like
half a season ago.
Yeah. And so it's just sort of like, it seems like they mischaracterize him in order to redo the same like character beat. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, have him have the same revelation again.
It's like, oh no, we need to believe in the system, even when the system doesn't always work perfectly. Is basically his continual.
He's had that revelation before. Okay, so roll him back a little bit and have him do it again.
yeah. So I wouldn't necessarily like he's mischaracterized in a beat by beat level to continually recharacterize him the same way. I guess is the problem. So yeah.
I have a feeling I'm gonna get annoyed with him.
Yeah. So,
but yeah, no, I know I bitch. I know I bitch a lot.
I mean, you bitch all the time, not even about this show. So, you know.
Yeah. This. Hi, nice to meet you. I'm Vera.
I mean, it's why I know you. It's why I know you hate Doctor Who, because you bitch about that show. So apparently,
I know.
Like you critique that show, so you must absolutely hate it, right?
Oh yes. Every critique is a reflection of my deep-seated loathing. But no, this was pretty solid as a finisher for the season.
Yeah. Well, I like solid finishers, you know.
Do you prefer them on the chest or on the face?
It doesn't matter as long as it's good. You like to switch it up. Now it's not even subtext. That's just text, Vera.
I'm kind of impressed at how easily you rolled with that. Very nice.
Good girl.
Thanks. Oh, I hate it.
And there's the blush.
It's not. I have no problem with sex. It's the dynamics that's the thing that gets me. I can talk about sex all day. Vagina, penis, masturbation, semen. I don't know. I have no problem with the literalization of it. Anyways, shut up, Vera. I can see your face. I don't like it. See, this is the thing that I hate.
You know what I love?
I don't even have to do this. Like I will, and I love to, but I can just.
You know what I can do? You know what I can do, Vera? I can demonetize this. It goes on your channel now, so I can just demonetize the shit out of your own damn channel.
I mean, you're getting half of what I make off these uploads. It ain't much.
I know, and which I do appreciate. But I could do it. Can I get? What if I break community violations? I'll just break community violations in the podcast so that your channel gets taken down. That's what I'll do.
I do edit the podcast, you realize. It's not like we're live streaming this.
This is true. Shut up. I'm just trying to get back at you. I don't give a shit. Anyways.
You're trying to assert power, and it's just not gonna work. It's very cute, though.
I hate you so much. Anyways.
Hate you too.
Yeah, my thoughts are the same as yours. I think this is a solid finale. I don't love it, but it's solid. It's good. It's it works. So, yeah, that's basically all I have to really say about it other than what you kind of said. The thing that again just is interesting to me is like I'm curious because there are shades of things in this that I do dislike as well, like the Chosen One stuff. But I am able to parse it usually on the line of like, I don't mind it if the characters do believe in the trope and do the trope. It's if the show does the trope, and we'll see what the show eventually does. And I have a feeling I know which way it goes, but it's based on some things that I know how the show ends. But even with the ending that I know, I'm like, I think it could. There's a way you could still walk the line that the show gets to. I just don't remember if the show does or not. So we'll see. But yeah, that'll be interesting to find out.
Yep, we'll be back next week to ruin more of Jessie's favorite show as she realizes, oh shit, this didn't work.
I will say this. I'll be honest about it. Just because my feelings on it. It's like as we watched Babylon 5, I remember like both this show and Babylon 5 I did really like. But as we watched Babylon 5, while I found a lot more flaws that I didn't recognize as a kid, I was ultimately like, yeah, I still really like this show quite a lot. I think it does a lot of really good things. This show, Battlestar Galactica, was in my top favorite science fiction shows of all time in my brain. And after having watched this season, I'm like, yeah, there's still stuff I like about it, but it has definitely sunk down lower in my estimation than being like, oh, it's one of my top 5 science fiction shows of all time. So I'm curious if that's just like, oh, it's a first season of the show and it will get better, or if it will like sink lower in my estimation. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, I know.
It's like it's like a show that is definitely like watching this season. While I still like it, I'm still enjoying it. I'm not like sitting here like this show's trash and I despise it. It has taken watching this season. It has taken a hit in my like nostalgia goggles. Whereas Babylon 5 did, but I didn't also hold like I love Babylon 5, but it wasn't like top 5 shows of all time, in which case it wasn't like knocked down. It's like, oh, I can see you morph through your flaws, and therefore I'm like less disappointed. I actually really love what I see here. So I'm curious to see if like the fact that I held the show in such higher esteem than I did Babylon 5 will ultimately work against it as we watch it. You know what I mean? So we'll see.
We will see.
That being said, I still like it. I'm not hating on it. It's still got its things that it's good. It's just like, I'm noticing a lot more flaws that I was not aware of as a kid. So,
Yep. That absolutely happens.
yeah. And actually, I'll even say this, and then we can end out the episode. Apollo is one that I'm probably struggling with most, because I actually remember as a kid really like identifying with Apollo, being like we fight for democracy. Now I'm a jaded fucking out trans woman dealing with rising fascism in America, and I'm like, yeah, fucking idealistic piece of shit kid who doesn't understand the realities of how these systems oppress people. Go fuck yourself, Apollo.
Yeah. Now you're an anarchist in her 30s. Like, you fucking idiot.
Yeah, I'm not an idealistic.
System, you piece of shit.
Yeah, just yelling at 14-year-old me. You'll learn. You'll become jaded like me, too. So, yeah, that'll be interesting to track. Anyways, that's everything I had. Anything else, Vera?
Nah.
All right. Well, stuff time.
Stuff. You can find my stuff by looking for Council of Geeks. By the time this comes out, I think my review of the finale of the new season of Doctor Who should be out the day after this goes live, if I have my timing correctly. Beyond that, there is also Council of Geeks is on Patreon. That's what pays the bills. Blue Sky is where I'll randomly post whatever the hell when I feel like it. Not that much. Social media does not hold the same appeal to me as once it did. But there is also the Break Room of Geeks, where maybe you are in fact listening to this podcast. But other than that, it is where I talk about whatever I have watched, listened to, played, or read lately. That is the geeky stuff. There's also, of course, the spicy stuff.
Which you can find by looking for Vera Wild. Wild is spelled WYLDE, and you can find wonderfully spicy content on YouTube.
I paused because, like, I have to stop myself from saying Instagram. I'm technically still on there, but I don't feel like plugging the Instagram anymore.
Yeah, I was going to even say, too, because I'll do my stuff real quick. I am on social media on Blue Sky, and I was like, I might promote my Instagram, only because I did post one picture, and it was just because I wanted to post a picture of me and my new nephew. So, and I just like, didn't really have anywhere else to really put it. So I was like, okay, I guess I'll put it on Instagram. So if you want to follow my Instagram for the presumably one post per year that I'll make, that's there. You can follow me over there. But Blue Sky is the main place. You can follow me at Jesse Gender on YouTube, where I do video essay style stuff. Not entirely sure when they will be releasing, but I am going to have a Star Wars Andor Season 2 video essay. It's going to be a big one because I'm just like saying, fuck it, it's a full retrospective on the series. So it's going to be a big one, so be on the lookout for that probably in the next month or so. A second video will also be coming on Star Trek. My next section Star Trek video will also probably be coming in the next 2 months or so. So those are on the horizon. I also have a secondary channel called Just Your Dark, where I'm going to do news, reviews, reactions. I am also still reviewing Doctor Who, just like Vera is. I will be reviewing Star Trek Strange New Worlds when that season comes out. I believe in July is when it's going to start, but I did get screeners. I can't talk about them, but I did get screeners. I can say that. So be excited to watch that soon. Like I already said, Blue Sky, I am on Nebula, which is the streaming service that houses my movie Identities, and will also be featuring the show Subliminal, of which I am directing talking an episode of later this summer. And I am also on Patreon, which helps me pay my bills, and you can go and support me there. Anything else, Vera?
Nah.
All right, with all that said, I hope y'all live long and prosper.
Be seeing you.